Yes, we are back, everyone. I say we because I have got a straggler with me today. Jimmy Jean's in the house. How you doing, man?
I am cocked, locked, and ready to rock, Kev.
That sounds good to me, dude. You got that Friday feeling about you, Jimmy?
I do, thank God it's Friday, and we made it through another week, and what a fantastic week of shows you had. I mean, the callers, it was wild. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, the callers, they have been absolutely fantastic this week. They really, really have. And I am really enjoying that kind of new format to the show, you know. Almost, it's reinvigorated me. Don't get me wrong. I love sitting there for 2 hours speaking to some of the most interesting people that I can find to speak to. But, you know, there's something about opening up the phones. I get it now. You know, I see why shows like Art Bell, Coast to Coast, Clyde Lewis, Jonesy to a certain extent. I see the big pull that comes from opening up the phones, and I genuinely get a buzz from it, Jimmy. I really, really do. Some of the best woo out there, I think we can all agree, comes from people like me and you. And no, I didn't mean to rhyme that. I'm not turning into some kind of crazy rapper, man. Not yet.
Well, here's the thing. Some of those calls, I mean, some calls that came in on the Art Bell show, people still remember those calls. Some of those calls, that's the thing about, you never know who's going to call in. I mean, somebody who may not be prepared to be a whistleblower, go through all the changes that they'd have to go through to actually, bring it to the table. They just happen to call in that day, and who knows what evil lurks just around the corner. I mean, that phone could open up and, I don't remember the guy's name, but I was talking about the black goo. I mean, there you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was that was our friend. Now let me just Rick. Yes, Rick from Scotland. Yeah, that dude is definitely full of the woo. And some of the callers that call in. Oh, whoa! What is happening there?
Fantastic.
Oh, wow, man. Sid, how you doing, brother? Awesome to see you, man. And awesome to see all of you out there. Yes, myself and Jimmy just talking away, like there's nobody else here. But good to see you all. We decided, we were sitting having a chat, weren't we, Jimmy? I didn't know if I was feeling like doing a stream, and it's just one of those days. But then, you get talking to you start looking for a couple of stories, and it's going to be nothing heavy today. Myself and Jimmy were actually going to do just a no news day whatsoever. We were just going to pull up nothing, just talk. But no, we found a couple of interesting things to get into. But I want to thank you all for being here again. I want to thank you all for continuing to support the show, especially super chats, things like that. You do not know how much that means. Seriously. If I could prove it to you, I really, really would. And if you want to become a member of the channel, I think we need 5 more, and then we get our new emoji. And because we're so close, we're so close to the Google payday. If you are considering a donation, please remember that we've got PayPal and Streamlabs, and then that means yours truly gets to feel that love rather immediately, as opposed to a couple of months down the line when it catches up through Google and things. But yeah, with that out of the way, Jimbo, so you think it's a good idea that we keep the phones going then when we're doing KBS?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, some of the calls that came in, they were fantastic. I mean, you can even have callers, like Art Bell used to do. He's like, I only want to take calls from time travelers today. Just time. You know what I mean?
Dude, I like it, man. I like it, but I think I've got a Skype number. I think I've actually got my own personal Skype number sorted. So for those of you who do enjoy the phone-in shows, there's a slight chance, there's a really slight chance that we might start doing calls. Whoa.
Whoa.
Said, brother. Dang, dude. Dang.
Brian says happy 6th Bakerville.
Don't listen, do it here. Said Vitch. Absolutely. Now, Luna, there's a message that you've just dropped in the chat room, sister. I've taken that message, okay? I'm not gonna put it live though, because it's almost like you're doxing yourself. But I get it, and I'm gonna pass that message on to the person that you want me to pass it on to. And Luna, I know that person's gonna be keen to get your phone number, because when I was after the show yesterday, somebody had been in touch with me to say that they were going to be getting in touch with you. So I will just take a note of that. I'll just put that in a little document here so that I don't forget. Yeah, Jimmy, I mean, yesterday we were talking about giants and things, and then we got a caller from down in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I thought we'd found a pretty cool story about this maybe thing happening, maybe clandestine archaeology. I mean, come on, that's right up the Kev Baker show street, right? And then we get a phone call. I'm already blown away because it's New Zealand. I mean, that's literally halfway round and down the world, you know? And yeah, not only is there some substance to that story, but also we found out that they found a giant skull ages ago as well. And not only that, you were sharing with me that our caller, Rose from New Zealand, you know, what a little corner of paradise, right? You know, your own little island, couple of 100 people there, accepted by the locals. That there, you know, that sounds like a little piece of heaven right here on Earth, dude. Solitude almost.
I know, and New Zealand is such a it's such a place that you really don't hear that much about, and for there to be an island off New Zealand that you never heard about just makes me feel like, you know, man, look how big and beautiful this world is, and you know, where we could just go in it. I mean, just decide to go live on that island and live there. And she went there, she said 40 years ago, and she fell in love and never left the place, man.
Exactly, dude. Look at
I mean,
little corner of paradise right there. Look at that, man.
Oh my God! No wonder she didn't leave.
I know. You know, I didn't hear anyone saying that New Zealand was fake when Australia was supposed to be fake, right? The New Zealanders, they were left alone. Nobody had a problem with them. By the way, folks, before you think I'm hinting that Australia might not be real, no. But it was a thing on the internet for a while where we did have people saying that. And I remember a couple of Australian people coming to me and going, come on, Kev, too far. And then I showed them. And they went, no, this can't be so. But yeah, New Zealand, very real. And I want to thank that caller for calling in. That was absolutely awesome. And it's today, you know, it's Friday. You know what things are like on a Friday here. And Jimmy, we're getting feedback. That's the way again.
Is it me?
Yeah,
I'm not.
Because it comes from you, dude.
Huh. I'm sorry.
It's like I hear myself talking through your headphones.
How about we're good now then?
We're good. Yeah, it's because you have this intimate relationship with your microphone where you almost
you
try
know what
and
it
seduce
was?
it every show. It's like you've got a kink for getting on with your microphone. You just want to get up close and give it that AMSR thing.
Well, the thing was, is Sid Vish just came through, and I bumped up to next to the microphone.
Sid Vish, dude.
Whoa.
Oh, Sid is on fire today. I'm telling you, man. Dang, dude. Don't forget the unicorn. Absolutely. So, yeah, with yesterday's calls in the second half of the show, all kind of been geared towards the woo, giants in this case. What better day than a Freaky Friday to take a look at some weird, strange noises, strange stories, And who better to do that than two strange guys like me and Jimmy Jeans? What do you think, Jimmy? I can't think of two stranger people to cover the strange news on this Friday.
I know, and I am strange right now. I'm about as strange as I can be because I'm in California and it's always 420 over here, Kev. And
always 420 over there. It's not 420 here, unfortunately, I'm telling you. It looks
yet.
a long way in the distance, Jimmy. Looks a long way in the distance, man. Way over the horizon.
Well, I don't think it's that far. It looks like it's getting a little bit more promising than it was just, I don't know, 30 minutes ago.
Anyway, hang on a minute.
How dare you?
Look at you sitting there boasting about how you can do that in your part of the world, and I live in tyrannical, draconian, Middle Ages UK, where plants that grow naturally on this planet can be deemed very offensive and in fact criminal. Yeah, although I must admit I'm over-egging it there. We're starting to get more into the 1800s, 1900s now. We're starting to change our attitude a little bit. Maybe by the time I'm 170, I'll be able to do the same things you do over there. And people are saying, Kev Baker, 170, you'll be lucky if you see your 50th. I'm taking the chip. I'm going full neural lace. I'm doing it, Jimbo. I didn't say it'd be physical, Kev. It'll be digital, Kev. I'm only joking, folks. I'm not really going to take the link. I'm not going to. But, you know, Jimmy, hopefully one day soon, my country over here will see sense. They'll realise the money that can be made on the back of the pastime that we're loosely talking about here without triggering algorithms. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get the kind of cafe that I want to see over here in the UK. Now, my computer is doing some really weird things today. Jimmy, you'd have seen a pile of things flying up on the screen there. I've no idea where they came from, but that's okay, because that's in line with the strangeness that we're going to be getting into. And one thing that I like doing on the show, and I know it resonates, and it's a pun, but it resonates well with the audience as well, is when we play these strange sounds, Jimmy. You know, we had a sound the other day from Anchorage, and it was one of these, like, they call it the trumpets of the apocalypse, and it was like a grinding thing. And for me, when Andy phoned in and he was talking about mining equipment and stuff like that, I must admit that, yes, to me, that's a plausible explanation for some of these sounds. But what do you think, man?
Well, I think so too. I mean, some of these, these boring machines, these nuclear-powered boring machines that they have that bore under the earth, building these tunnels for these deep underground military bases where everybody's going to hide when the Armageddon starts. When they're drilling those holes, when they're drilling those holes, they make noises. I mean, some of those noises, I remember them from a couple of years ago, and you could hear there's like this metal scraping, like rail sound. I always thought it sounded like rails, but then, I did a little bit of research into those drilling machines because Elon Musk was going to be doing some of that. He was going to be trying to do some underground bullet train thing, and he was buying up all the old military missile silo tunnels that are honeycombed all throughout, the southwest of America. And so that kind of came to this conclusion that it was those machines a lot of times making those noises, but it sure did sound like the rotation of the earth was slowing or something,
Yeah, like something like that there. If that's going through like rock and metals and all sorts, I don't know. Maybe that could be something. Again, I can't prove it's that, but it logically fits, okay? But we've got another strange sound to listen to today. And this time, folks, this is a weird one. Jimmy heard it. And I didn't spoil the effect. I just let him hear the video. I didn't, put it into any context. And I just said to Jimmy, what is it you hear? And Jimmy, you said to me, what were you hearing in the video that we're about to get into?
Well, it sounded to me like there was something screaming in the dark somewhere. I mean, it sounded like some sort of a wild. All right.
Oh.
What if the coronavirus is a smart virus?
Unless that fits in with terrifying Bigfoot screams, what if, you said it yourself, my friend, what if? Exactly. What if I do not know enough about it, and I don't know enough to really speak more on it. And there's
you mean you're not a virologist?
Nah, I'm not. Plus, there's you know, I have covered that at the beginning, and I will get back to covering that, but not today. And
Nah.
yeah, there's every potential. What you're saying is right. Absolutely. Again, how can we prove any of it right now? But Mr. D-Ball Money, I love that name. It's brilliant. It's a good question. What if? It's a good question, and when you look at some of the stuff out there, you know, there's certainly it certainly makes you think. Let's put it that way. But moving back into our strange sound for today, Mr. D-Ball, you almost derailed me, but I've got your back. You've got my back. We're good, brother. We're good. So maybe this Bigfoot that we're about to hear, maybe there's something wrong with that, because it sounds as if it's in distress, Jimmy, doesn't it?
It does. It sounds like something's happening there, and it doesn't sound normal at all.
And to Mr. D-Ball out there, you know, the guys might want to cover that at the weekend in one of the late night streams, perhaps. And I'm going to be putting something together about it. Might be an offline, like uploaded video type thing. But yeah, I haven't taken my eye off it. I'm doing lurk mode. I'm doing lurk mode, and don't talk about it, Jimmy, because we're not getting sidetracked. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to say, the acronym SMART on your phone and on everything else means something. Well, I'll say that. So, and if you have some spare time, look it up. Well, it's not just a word that means smart. And I'm sure you're going to cover this anyway. Today, we're just kicking it, though. Today's no news.
Yeah, it's no news Friday. Come on.
Right.
And I get a funny feeling, you know, when I go live later, because Joe and Scott haven't been on air all week, they'll probably want to talk about it. So remember, later on tonight, I will be back. 99% sure I'll be back for Freaky Friday. And I'd be surprised if the guys don't want to get into it then. But I just wanted to keep it light today. Get that chill stream going. Get in the mood for the woo. Get the freak on. And there's nothing better than a good noise to warm up proceedings, right? So it says here, a recently uploaded video has captured some interesting and unnerving sounds in the wood. It was recorded on the 9th of February by a YouTuber called Preston Riley. It's in Ohio, and we're going to take a little listen to it. I'm going to make sure it's boosted enough, because the sound isn't the best, but I think you get the general idea, don't you, Jimmy? You certainly got it, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Here we go. It's quiet. You know what makes that super interesting for me? And people will probably say, what are you talking about? See at the start here? It's almost like they've heard the noise and they're running to try and get closer to it so they can get a recording of it. Like, it is kind of spur of the moment, spontaneous type thing. But of course that could be done to make people like me think that, Jimmy. But that noise, that's unnerving, dude. I mean, I've lived up in the Highlands. I was brought up there. You know, you'd hear some weird noises out in the wilderness. But and stags, you know, stags when they're rutting and they're you know, the mating call and the things that these animals. I mean, that's a weird noise, but it's nothing like that, man.
No. Yeah, the elk make noise too.
Yeah, yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, it's nothing like that though. That sounds, but you know, I'll tell you, since I would say over the last 9 months, Bigfoot has become more of a topic of discussion. I mean, I would say more than it has been in the past. And since that time, and since that has been happening, I've noticed a lot more compelling evidence is starting to show up surrounding the whole Bigfoot mystery. So it's interesting. I mean, I don't know what that is.
No, either do I. I really don't. I can't tell you it's a Bigfoot because I don't know what a Bigfoot sounds like. But that noise to me, and I'm not an expert in the wilderness. You know, I was in the army for a few years, so it's not like I spent like years on end living out in the wilderness or anything. So I definitely can't sit here and tell you I've got a catalogue of all these strange noises. But that to me, that's something new. Now, does it mean it's Bigfoot? Does it mean it's something we don't know? I don't know. But it's these noises, dude. And then you know what happens with noises like this? Sparks the imagination, doesn't it? Because that brain of yours, it wants to find a pattern. It wants to be comfortable knowing that, yeah, that's okay. I know what that noise is. We can label that noise. And when you get a noise that you can't label, that's when your head starts filling in the gaps. And it could be Bigfoot, it could be a chupacabra, it could be bloody anything.
Well, the thing about it is, man, if you're sitting out there in the dark and you're sitting in your little tent, your little nylon tent, you're out there camping, you said, hey, honey, let's go camping. And now you're out there in your little nylon tent. It's the middle of the night. The fire's died out. You're just sitting there and it's dark. You start hearing stuff roaring outside.
War says it's Bigfoot a Freemason. Only if there's a lodge nearby. Only if there's a lodge, my friend, yes. Maybe that's what it is, Jimmy. Maybe when you get to the 33rd degree, people say there's degrees after that. Maybe you just fucking shapeshifting a Bigfoot.
Well, all I know, man, is it doesn't matter when you're in
F-bomb my own show. Did I?
Yeah, but I don't know, man.
How dare you?
Oh, dude, that's bad. That's bad. There you go. It's a belated one. There you go.
I was thinking about starting a whole superhero called F-bomb, and he has an F on his chest. It's one of those round bombs with the fuse.
Now, talking of Masons, this is weird, Jimmy. I have to interrupt you because our good friend Lothar, who is the expert on all things Masonic here. Now, Lothar's saying, I think it's a fake recording. I've heard that before in other videos. The howling comes from a movie. And that could easily be done, right? You just run through the forest, film that, and then you add the audio track later.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jimmy, you entertain the crew for just a moment. I just need to go and do some family stuff. 2 seconds.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I mean, see, that's the thing. Nowadays, we're in this filter bubble where information just comes in, and it's like any piece of information. It gets you see it out there. It's like this noise. We see it. It's like a piece of red meat. We go out there like hunters. We drag it back into the cave, and we bring it here for everybody to take a look at. And a lot of people say, nah, I don't think you should eat that. It doesn't look right. There's reasons why you shouldn't eat it. It's almost like hunter. Kev is like the hunter-gatherer.
I've never been described as that before, but it's probably one of the more favourable things I've been described as this weekend. Harriet in the chat room, I think it was Harriet, yeah, can cryptids make people not come home? Well, I think to the woo and the mystery attached to all these missing people in the national parks. Now, some of them turn up, I get that, but then there's some of them that never turn up again, despite hundreds of people, trained searchers going out looking, hours after somebody's gone missing. There's no sign of them, no trace of them. Now, the only thing I can think of that gets seen in the woods that leaves no trace would be a cryptid. A Bigfoot, Jimmy. Now, I'm not saying these people are all falling victims to some rabid Bigfoot, but again, can we rule anything out? And when it comes to the forests, okay, and people will laugh at this, but bear with me. When you look at myth and legend, these are the types of places where you would hear about almost portals, Jimmy, right? I know people talk about fairies and things like that, but that portal, that thinning of the veil between this dimension and the next, I don't know. There's, to me, a forest, it's alive anyway. It's got its own consciousness, right? From the fungi on the ground to the top of the trees. There's a weird bit of woo in there that I don't think us humans truly appreciate. And if that's the case, then who knows what effects that can have? Who knows what can happen? And I always remember hearing one person on Coast to Coast saying, you know, if you're ever going through a set of woods and you hear nice kind of folk music and kind of singing and dancing, and never approach it, Jimmy. Never approach it, because that's the first sign that there's some shenanigans going on and it's trying to lure you in.
Especially if it's a dude, an albino dude sitting on with a banjo. Stay away.
Have you seen him as well, man? Dude, he hangs about in Scotland. He like busks down on Argyle Street in Glasgow. Big albino dude with a banjo. He doesn't really, but I thought I'd get you. I thought you'd say, "Does he really?" But you didn't. You didn't bite.
Oh, I know, because I was buying into it, because lately I've been noticing all these tall whites that I never noticed before. Like there's a dude. He's a guitar player from the '70s. His name is Johnny Winter. I started looking at the dude after we'd done the show where we were looking at the tall white, what he was saying. And I started looking at this other guy, and his hands, man, his fingers look like they're like 9 inches long. He might have.
Mr. D-Ball Money's an albino, dude. And even if he's joking, we're going to call you Mr. Albino from now on. Don't take offense, my friend. No. That sets you apart from the rest of us. Absolutely. I'm certainly not singling out the albinos for bullying purposes. Oh, hell no. I tell you what, they do kind of make you look twice, right? One of those ones. Especially if they're playing a banjo in the woods at midnight.
Well, the thing too is that some of these forests and some of these jungles are so deep, man, that there was a movie that came out in the 90s about this Indian tribe that was still alive in somewhere in Montana. They were living. They were called the Dogmen, was the name of the tribe. And they were living inside these woods as though society had moved past them, and they were still living like they did back in the day. They didn't even interact with people at all. So, to me, it's totally possible that there's these creatures that have learned how to live just outside of society. As alternative thinkers, we've sort of learned to live a little bit outside of society. We're kind of
time.
We're kind of like the Bigfoot in a way,
Are we like the cryptids within the human species? Are we? Are we special ones? Because Bigfoot are special, man. There's nothing bad about the Bigfoot. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've never heard. Of all the stories, all I've ever heard of is them yelling in the distance, protecting their young, and running off when they see people. I've never heard of them actually hurting anybody. But there was a movie that came out a long time ago, had a lot of stories about Bigfoot, and one of them was a guy was sitting in the bathroom. It was like he had a cabin in the woods, and he was just sitting there. And I remember the footage distinctly because they did a recreation of it. And the dude's just, sitting there in the bathroom, mind his own business, take care of business, read the newspaper. And all of a sudden he hears this, and this hand just reaches in the window and like starts grabbing the guy and trying to drag him out the window. Now, I don't know if it was true or not, but it was definitely.
Was that an albino's hand?
It could have been.
Who knows? But folks, somebody in the chat room has got size 16 feet. I imagine you're going to be a big hit with the ladies in the chat room sometime real soon. And size 16 feet, that reminds me of my son. His feet are like twice the size of mine. Where he gets his height from, I honestly don't know. Both the postman and the milkman, they're both my size, so it's not one of those cases. I really don't know. It's like some kind of repressed Nephilim gene has expressed itself in Kevin. Yes, indeed. And he loves basketball. He loves his Jordan and things like this. And I tell you what, dude, I don't know. He's definitely not cut from the same cloth as me, that's for sure. But I'm glad. Because as a wee guy, it's not the easiest growing up being almost like the smallest one. You always get picked on. Now, there's two ways to look on that. You could become a victim, or you could be like me, and you could just turn into a maniac and fight back when you're smaller.
Scrapper.
Yes, exactly. And you could go through your life with a big chip on your shoulder, always wanting to fight big people. Not that I would want to do that, but I'm just saying, yeah. But talking about these creepy cryptids, I also found another story that I want to bring up today. Couple of reasons. Towards the end of this, it becomes very, very relevant to me and the Kev Baker Show audience, because it not only talks about Loch Ness, where obviously I grew up, not in Loch Ness, not like literally in Loch Ness, beside it, on dry land, and it mentions the magical stones at Clava Cairns. Ah, yes, that Pictish stone site that I went to last summer, and definitely dispelled this myth that is held by the Scottish Tourist Board that this is some burial site. Well, unless it just happens to be a burial site that's got an opening that happens to align with the summer and winter solstice, and maybe there's just happens to be 12 graves around the stone circle, Jimmy. I'm just mistaking it for maybe months or some kind of calendar site, you know. But that comes up in this next story as well. So let's take a look at that, and myself and Jimmy will discuss it. We're going to be in the chat room as well, and Jimmy, if you need me to blow up the chat so you can see it a bit, I'll do that for you. Better get it onto live chat. And folks, yeah, remember that if you're new to the live streaming, always remember to click on live chat. You'll see absolutely everything that's going on. See, to be honest with you, I don't actually know what chat it hides, Jimmy, when you're not on live chat. How does it decide who to hide from you?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but
there's some kind of creepy Bigfoot thing going on in it.
I do know this though. If you're ever thinking about becoming a member of the channel, right now is a really excellent time to do it, because Kev is just on the cusp, and he just needs a few more people to step up to the plate ski.
I think we must have had a spate of bot subscribers, Jimmy. I made 50 new subscribers the other day. That's quite good going, especially in this day and age of leaking subscribers everywhere. But then the exact next day, Jimmy, all 50 came off again. So I suspect, you know, and if you are out there and you're a Kev Baker supporter, please don't try and deploy any botnets or click farming or anything like that, because that would have such a negative impact on the channel that we would all lose everything, and we definitely don't want that. So then, moving on to this next bit of woo, Jimmy, we'll get into this, and I know you've got a show later on today as well, right? You're gonna be live yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, tonight at 11 Pacific, I'm gonna be doing my show, and I do a thing, Kev, called the Dead Man's Party.
Nice.
And I'm
saying nice, but it sounds a bit disturbing.
No. What we do is we talk about people that are dead, because there's just so many of them that are interesting to talk about. So it'll definitely be a dead man's party tonight.
People that aren't with us anymore, Jimmy. You don't use that D word, okay? People that aren't with us anymore, not here anymore. You see?
Is dead? Oh, I see. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, you see,
I got
you have to play these linguistic Olympics to get around things. You see, my man, you see. So yes, as you can see here, we're staying on topic, just about, right. And that's pretty good for me and Jimmy. It rarely happens, but we're going to try. So it says here, strange creatures of cryptozoology. I think we need some music on for this. We need some kind of creepy music or something in the background, don't we? And that's a must. So if I drop that in there, bang that on a bit, and we have that about there. Yeah, that's looking good, right? That's pretty good. So here we go, folks. It says here, one of the most confounding things about strange creatures is their curious connection to ancient stone circles, sites of archaeological significance, and historical burial mounds. The United Kingdom's most famous stone circle, Stonehenge, is situated on the vast and sprawling Salisbury Plain, which is located in the green and hilly county of Wiltshire. And round about that area, folks, for anyone outside of the UK, it's almost like an open military camp. Because there's so many military bases and headquarters and in that area. I don't know, maybe it's just a coincidence that they're in the same place. Make of it what you will. But notably, sightings of strange creatures near this approximately 5,000-year-old Neolithic stone structure are far from uncommon. We'll say potentially plus or minus 5,000 years, because do we really know the dates of anything that's going on? I sometimes wonder. So it says 5,000-year-old Neolithic stone structure are far from uncommon. The Neolithic period. As just one example of many, Merrill Harper, a researcher of large anomalous black cats in the UK, interviewed a former member of the British Army named George Price, who had a sighting of a huge orangutan-like animal on Salisbury Plain in 2002. Now, the English county of Kent is home to a small village called Blue Bell Hill, which happens to be on the site of a Neolith-era formation of stones called Ket's Cotty House. Now, it's a structure which may have doubled as a site for a human sacrifice. I need to find a new way of saying that. Somebody else not coming home. And as a memorial to ancient fallen warriors of renown. Now, it's notable that numerous sightings have been made at Kit's Cotty House, usually late at night, and often when the moon is full and the cold wind howls. Of semi-spectral, primitive-looking people dressed in rags and animal skins lurking among the old, long, abandoned stones. Now, Jimmy, that's either some modern-day living flesh people that are maybe part of a pagan group that might be doing some moonlight kind of partying out of the stones, you know, as you do. Or it could be one of these occasions where you get one of almost like a time slip, right? Where you actually, it's as if something in the past is almost replaying, Jimmy. Like a residual kind of haunting, a residual memory. That makes sense?
A magnetic imprint, so to speak.
Give me 2 secs again, Jimmy, right? 2 secs, I'll be right back. You talk about this, but what about your mounds over there, man? I mean, you got the serpent mound and things like that. Is there associated woo around them?
Well, I'm sure there is. I know this, that for a long time, nobody really even paid attention to any of those mounds. People just thought they were just mounds of dirt. And so there's quite a bit of lore around these mounds and a lot of talk of giants having to do with some of these mounds in the United States. I know. I've heard talk of this. I'm not too well versed on it as far as the giants and where the conglomeration of these mounds in relation to where these skeletal remains of these larger size humans than are considered to be natural. I don't know.
So, Jimmy, do you think they were, see the giants, right? Dead veg.
Don't be a shill, link us to his kill.
Oh, Sid bitch. You know, I've spoke to Sid on Discord. We've had the cams on and things. Tell you, man, I love that guy. I really do. He's the type of person that I know I would get on with. Like, if you bumped into somebody, Jimmy, you get on with some people, you don't get on with others, right? Like you, if I bumped into you and I didn't know you, I think I would find you interesting looking, and I'd strike up a conversation and we'd get on. Sid Vitch, exactly the same, dude. Exactly the same. He's just one of these guys that you look at and you think, you're an interesting character, man.
Well, let me just say, I can't thank him enough. I mean, he's been on fire today, for sure, and he
Sid
seems
Vitch,
like a great guy.
Sid Vitch does, he does too much for us, man. He really does, and I truly appreciate it, man. I really, really do. I was going to ask you, do you think these giants do they have to be like Nephilim or like evil or some way not human? What I mean is, there was somebody in the chat room earlier on talking about, Kev, have you ever talked about mud floods and missing history and things like that? And what if they were just us, Jimmy? You know, in another cycle? What if everything, like the people were just bigger? Things were just bigger, dude. There was nothing like that didn't come from anywhere else. It was just what grew here at the time. And it didn't take, for whatever reason, or cataclysms come along and go. And now we find ourselves in this more airless, compact, domesticated form that we come in now. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, if you've never read the Bible, right? If you've never read the Bible, it's not going to be a Nephilim to you, is it?
No, but at the same time, if you look at it, you say to yourself, well, we sit around and we just, you know, how do we survive in this world? We eat food, right? So, but those food that we eat is an animal. Okay, the food that we eat, you know, is an animal of some kind or some piece of vegetable. So what's to say that if you were like 20 feet tall and there's a bunch of these little humans running around like this big, running around to you? I mean, to you, it tastes like pork. You know, you're like, yeah, some bark. You know what I mean? Hey, I really like the thigh on it. You know what I mean?
Oh, we're even getting sound effects from Jimmy now as well. It's going to be one of these ones, folks. You never know it's Friday, Jimmy. I mean, making my Alex Jones back on Friday. But England's Peak District is the site of a millennia-old stone circle, known locally as the Nine Ladies. What can only be described as a hulking British Bigfoot. You can only get that described by somebody British. A hulking British Bigfoot was seen in the area in 1991. Now, the Bronze Age Rolling Stones of Oxfordshire, or Rolling Right Stones. I was thinking of like the roll right. Jimmy, I can't read that properly. My head wants to say the Rolling Stones. I'm thinking of Mick Jagger cracking out a tune, right? So it wasn't.
That's what I was thinking.
It wasn't when Mick Jagger was in Oxfordshire, but there's a place called Roll Right Stones. There's a link to it. I've never heard of that in my life. Here we go. Looks very similar to clavacairns. And you can see there's definitely a circular thing going on here. Do you think there was something more than ceremonial going on, Jimmy, when you find these stone circles? I'm thinking maybe, are they tapping into energies in the ground and stuff? Who only knows, man?
I know. I always think that these ley lines that exist from antiquity are dead links, and that a lot of these places where you see these monuments where they were doing something circular in a circular format, I think, you know, maybe there was some sort of a
look at this here. Look at this here. Look, you got the stone circle. Now that there looks kind of man-made, that, and then I think you've got a couple of crop circles as well, right?
Yeah.
An interesting part of the world down there, eh? Interesting. And I get it, folks, probably half, maybe more of the crop circles that we see are man-made, but it only takes one. Out of all the crop circles we've ever seen around the world, it only takes one to have been real. And when you look at the difference between me and Jimmy going out with a couple of planks of wood and doing it, and one of these like bona fide kind of crop circles where the grain, the plants don't get broken, they're not damaged. The farmer loses nothing because when people stand on them and tramp them down, they snap, they crack, it's gone. But there's another type of crop circle where it leaves little nodules and it just kind of bends the plant over. Anyone who's growing a plant at home and you're trying to make it grow really big and get a lot of flower on the top of it, at times you top it, right? You bend it, and when it grows back, it's got that wee nodule in it. It's almost as if, Jimmy, whatever happens on the more interesting ones, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy. I'm not saying all of them are woo. But the ones that have that kind of almost scientific kind of look to how they've been made, you know, maybe by heat, by energy, I don't know now, that kind of thing. When you get them so close to these stone circles, I mean, what was going on back in the day when we built the stone circles? Were we trying to attract the things that made the crop circles, maybe? I don't know.
Well, take a look at the piece of technology that exists nowadays. They have a machine that you can put a slab of metal into it, and then you can put a complex drawing into that machine, and it will go in and laser cut that metal exactly to the pattern that you put in as far as a blueprint now is concerned. So now extrapolate that out on a bigger scale and say, well, if I had let's say I have a directed energy type weapon, I can direct it and I can put this same type of complex mechanical drawing into that, and that will shoot down from the satellite or whatever device is using to propagate the signal down and create that crop circle in that way. Another one too, Kev, is you see a lot of these orbs seem to appear a lot of times when these crop circles, and now there's been a lot of people recently, and over the last 6 months I've been seeing a lot of reports of people seeing these orbs everywhere now.
Yeah, I've stopped looking at the orb ones. I stopped looking at the crop circles, Jimmy. No specific reason. You know how sometimes you're into something, you'll go back and look now and again, and then whatever happens, you don't lose interest, but you kind of forget about it and you don't go back. So I think one of these streams, maybe one day, we'll go over all of the latest crop circles, because I think it's quite easy to tell the man-made from the really, really significant ones apart. And maybe they're all otherworldly. But if that's the case, they really ought to send better artists sometimes, because some of them really make a mess of it, Jimmy. They really do. Whatever they're trying to communicate, I don't know.
I don't know. Some of those Nibiru ones were pretty intense. You know,
they had like the planets and their orbits and weird things. Yeah.
Showing it coming in and all this weird stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. You know, there's so many questions to ask in this wonderful world that we live in.
Exactly,
Isn't it
dude.
just, I mean, who knows what it is? And I can tell you that, from my personal experience, somebody told me over 20 years ago that the crop circles were caused by energy weapons or directed energy.
Well, think about that. And I'm not saying they are, okay, but I did also mention that down that neck of the woods, heck of a lot of military stuff going on. That's all I would say. But at the same time, when I was in the army, there was never any, like, when you'd go for roll call, there was never the chance to go and, like, volunteer to be a crop circler or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe it must be some secret crop circle unit, maybe, perhaps.
I heard if you're in the military, you should never volunteer for anything, Kev.
I learned that the hard way, Jimmy. I learned that the hard way. Quick story then, right? Quick story.
Yeah,
and
please.
Right out of basic training, and of course I had to go to trade training for a year to learn how to do the satellites, the Morse code, and everything else. And then when we were there, we were told, when you get to your unit and that, show some like enthusiasm and things, and the minute you get asked to volunteer for something, just you stick your hand up, and they'll appreciate that, and you'll stand out and you'll make a name for yourself. So there I am, about 3 days into my first ever posting at 30 SIGs. Now, 30 Signal Regiment, and I believe it's still the same. They call them the Globetrotters, right? Because we used to carry pagers on us, and 1 month of the year, if you were unlucky enough, you'd be on 24 hours notice to move to anywhere in the world. One of my mates one night, went to bed, woke up the next day, my mate's gone. End up finding out he's in Somalia. Because when something happens in the world, they want communications there. So it's not that you're like an elite unit, but for the signals, you were always going to be the first ones in. So we're stood there, Jimmy, first week there. I remember it well, man. Need volunteers, got a tour coming up abroad. Who's interested? And I'm looking about and I'm thinking, come on, surely one of the guys that have been here longer, they're going to want this. And nobody's putting their hand up, right? Which should have struck me right away. Now, that should have been the first clue that there was something going on here. So, yours truly, yes, sir. I'll volunteer for that. No problem, Baker. You're going to Norway for 3 months. Ha ha ha. Everyone burst out laughing, dude. So, you're right. Be careful what you volunteer for, man.
Well, I mean, how was Norway, though? I'm sure it wasn't bad.
Magnificent. It's one of the most beautiful countries I ever seen. I described it to people as being like Scotland on steroids, because over here we've got lovely snow-covered hills, but just snow-covered at the top, you know, and we've got the lake, well, lochs and things, and at the bottom of the hills, but over there you've got the fjords, right? You've got literally mountains and the tunnels. Jimmy, this is a place that, like, the snow was stacked yawn high above the cars, and yet never a road was closed. Never a road closure. Snowing all day long, going wild, roads were fine. You come to the UK, and you get a couple of inches of rainfall over here, and the roads are knackered, you know what I mean? But, very expensive country. Very expensive country. That's the only downfall that I had with the place. It was extortionate.
Well, it keeps out the riffraff.
It does. But getting back to our story before we do get waylaid, this is what happens with me and him. It's just a natural thing. We go here, there, and everywhere.
The thing is you're right back there in Norway. Isn't that where the Nordic influx of the tall whites came from?
Hey, dude. Would need to get Max on to speak more specifically about that. Our good friend Max. I don't know what's happened to the chat room here on this version that we're looking at just now, but that's okay. I'm going to get back into this story because we've still got something about Loch Ness and Clava to come. It says England's Peak District is the site of a millennia-old stone circle known locally as the Nine Ladies. Oh, we've had that bit, right? The Bronze Age rollright stones in Oxfordshire are haunted by a large, shaggy beast that is a strange and savage combination of an ape and a wolf. What the is that all about? A mixture of an ape and a wolf?
That sounds scary, man.
Give me the Bigfoot any day of the week, right? So it says Lustley Cleeve is an earthworks built in Neolithic times and which is located on Dartmoor in Devon, and where Sir Arthur Conan Doyle set his classic Sherlock Holmes novel, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Now, the deadly dog of Doyle's acclaimed story was fiction. The hairy cavemen that, for centuries, have been seen roaming through Lustley Cleeve on starlit winter nights are most assuredly not. And I ask you, could this be the sound of one of these hounds, Jimmy? I don't know. It's interesting, but we go on. I digress. We're getting there, folks. So, what's going on? Asks Nick Redfern, one of my favourite paranormal woo researchers, writers ever. We're so blessed to have had Nick on the show one time. Need to get him back. But why are monsters and strange creatures so inextricably linked to old stone circles and formations? Well, a notable theory comes from Linda Godfrey, who I have to remember, pen out. I need to get back in touch with her because she was going to come on the Kev Baker show. So that's one I need to organise. You see, Jimmy, I told you there was a reason we were getting into this madness today. And if for nothing else, it's prompted me to get back in touch with Linda. So she's a resident of Wisconsin and someone who has extensively investigated and written about bizarre animals in her home state, as well as across the entirety of the United States. Now, in the same way that unidentified creatures are seen in the direct vicinity of stone circles in the UK, Linda has noted that such is also the case in the United States, where similar things are encountered near old Native American mounds, and particularly beasts that sound chilling like real life werewolves. Now, I think there's a typo in there somewhere. It's not just my horrendous reading skills, folks. But Linda says, I can tell you that Native Americans from various locations have indicated to me that these things absolutely exist, as do zoomorphic, that's animal-shaped, spirit guardians made to watch over sacred grounds. And this is a fascinating scenario. Ancient man may very well have tapped into a hard-to-define realm of the supernatural and duly called forth fantastic beasts to act, in essence, as paranormal guard dogs of revered sites of a mystical nature. All of which brings us to the matter of Loch Ness. It's a little known fact that the loch itself has its very own and very mysterious stone structures. Should we simply chalk this up to coincidence? Based on what you are now about to read, my answer to the question can only be a decisive no. Get ready for this, folks. This is going to blow your mind. The summer of 1976 was noted for being the birth of Kevin Bacon. Sorry, no, I misread that. It was also noted, Jimmy, for being one of the hottest years on record, which my mother never lets me forget. She often refers to how she had to carry me around inside her when it was absolutely tropical weather in the UK. I don't mean it was literally tropical, but it was warm, right? So it goes on to say here, something that anyone of a certain age and who lived through it can attest to. So by June, the temperature was already up to the mid-80s Fahrenheit. And on July the 3rd, 13 days before the glorious day that Kev Baker came into the world, it peaked at a pulverizing 96.6 Fahrenheit, which is certainly hot for the UK. Now that scalding period was noted for something else too. An American named Marty Klein was at Loch Ness. What a great name. Should have been an actor. As part of the expedition to find evidence of the existence of its famous creatures. Now, it was an ambitious quest, organised and sponsored by the Boston, Massachusetts-based Academy of Applied Science and the New York Times, and headed by long-time Nessie seeker, Dr. Robert H. Rhines. Now, it was also a project that saw the AAS team capture some intriguing sonar imagery, including one dubbed the average plesiosaur, that seemed to show nothing less than a long-necked carcass in deep waters of Fort Augustus in Loch Ness. Now, if you didn't know, Fort Augustus is where I grew up until I was, 17? And then I couldn't get out of there quick enough. But there was something else that Klein and his comrades found. Something that was as amazing as it was surely totally unanticipated. While using side-scan sonar technology in the waters near the village of Loch End, which can be found on the northeastern end of the loch, and that's the opposite end from Fort Augustus, the team stumbled upon something hitherto unknown. Two curious formations, one in water of a depth barely 30 feet, and another at a depth of around 70 feet. They were described as, quote, a mother lode of stone circles, big ones and little ones, single circles and circles intertwined with others, circles laid out in a straight line and circles in no particular order. Now, given that Marty Klein was the key figure in the discovery of the stones, they became known, almost inevitably, as Klein-Henge 1 and Klein-Henge 2. Now, as somebody that grew up in Fort Augustus and still have connections to that area through family and things, I've never heard of anything called the Klein-Henge 1 and the Klein-Henge 2. I haven't ever heard of that name, Jimmy. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying Nick Redfern's wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I've never heard of that, and I'm a local. Now, in terms of size, these circles range from 15 to 150 feet in diameter, And to varying degrees, they overlapped. Now, not everyone was sure that the henges had Neolithic origins, which was something quickly suggested by the AAS when the formations were found. Now, that's a logical leap to make, because up in that area, you've got clava cairns, you've got various Pictish Neolithic sites. So it's not a stretch of the imagination, Jimmy, why they thought or why they labelled it and put it to that timetable, right? That kind of time period. But that doesn't get away from the fact that we're talking 30 feet and 70 feet into Loch Ness. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the Great Glen was formed way longer than 5,000 years ago. And that's why people speculate that perhaps some kind of dinosaur could have got stuck in ice and maybe made it there. And you've got these two plates of land that moved, and that's what gives you the loch. Now, these Pictish people, Jimmy, as good as they were, I don't think they were building stone circles 70 feet underwater 5,000 years ago.
No, it doesn't sound very plausible. But I mean,
no, not at all, right?
No, but I mean, I've been watching the chat, and King Sweden there just said he always knew that the Loch Ness were using stone portals to phase into our dimension. But I think that's interesting, because if the kind of energy and power that surrounds the Loch Ness that's been talked about, and it's been there for a long time, and maybe those circles were there, you know, like you were saying, before the water was down, and this area was there because it was a special area that had some sort of a portal either leading to another dimension or possibly even into the center Earth.
That's funny you say that, because there are bits of Loch Ness that they say are bottomless. Now, I get it, folks. Come on. Bottomless? But you've got to understand, you're talking about cave networks that come off either side. And where they end, nobody knows, right? Although some know, some tunnels are going from Scotland right the way under Europe. Check out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. They stretch from Scotland to Turkey. So you've got the stone circles of Loch Ness all the way to Turkey, and I think of Turkey archaeology. Stone circles at Göbekli Tepe. It's built in circular kind of mounds, right? It might mean something, it might not. But we go back here. It says not everyone was sure that the henges had the Neolithic origins. Now, we said that. One J.D. Mills of Surrey, England, based underwater instrumentation, offered the theory that the stones were nothing stranger than material dredged from the nearby River Ness when the building of the Caledonian Canal was underway early in the 19th century. But is this really all there was to Klein henges? Others have suggested that such a down-to-earth explanation is very wide of the mark. When the story of the stone circles of Loch Ness got out, Klein and a colleague, Charles Finkelstein, told the Chicago Tribune's John Noble Wilford that while a great deal of further research was required, it was their initial conclusion that the formations were fashioned by human hand, and they quite possibly dated back thousands of years, and to a time when the waters in the loch were at much lower levels than today. Now that I can go with, Jimmy, right? Yeah, thousands of years ago, you know, we often talk about how land masses have risen and fallen, and we've got things below the surface now. And why is it this is starting to tie in with all the conversations we've been having lately about cycles and things being connected? I don't know, this is weird, right? But it come back here and it says, then in 2005, Robert Rhines commented that yet more, now I do know about this, yet more curious formations of stones were found deep in the waters of Loch Ness. Now, Loch Ness Monster Authority, Roland Watson, and Roland, you are absolutely welcome to that title, my friend. My biggest fear is that thanks to my good friend Clyde Lewis, I'm going to eventually be dubbed the monster guy, because he loves to get me on to talk about it, Jimmy. I'm going to be typecast as the Loch Ness monster guy. Can you believe it?
That's so funny.
I want to assure Roland Watson right now, your job is safe, my friend. I don't want that. So he's mused on it, right? But it's admittedly not persuaded by, the idea that sunken stones referenced by Rhines in 2005 were a byproduct of the completion of the Caledonian Canal in 1822, or of the widening of the A82 road back in the 1930s. And the controversy does not end there. Now, the A82, it's the main road that you'll see most people taking pictures from. If you've seen a picture of Loch Ness, there's a 90% chance it's been taken from a lay-by on the A82. It goes right up and down the loch. At points of it, you get the full view. Right up and down to the horizon, you can see the loch. And that's why, you know, everyone, they're on the lookout when you're on that road. Then we come down to this bit here. And I think I've seen Mammoth in the chat room. Mammoth, I've got a message from you for Luna. And you're going to love this, as are all of our Outlander fans out there. Because this takes us to Clava and that magical stone circle in the TV show that just happens to be, a Stargate. Go figure. So there's an undeniable similarity between Kleinhenge 1 and 2 and what are known as the Balnauren. I hate that word, even I can't say it. Balnauren of Clava, or the Clava Cairns. Like the previously mentioned Kit's Cotty House and Lustley Cleave, the Balnauren of Clava date back to the Neolithic era and probably around 2000 BC. I like how they say probably, because they've got absolutely no idea, Jimmy, that's why. In essence, they're a trio of burial chambers. Like I say, these burial chambers just happen to have a passageway into the middle of it that lines up with the summer and winter solstice. And never a skeleton has been found at Clava Cairns. So just bear that in mind when they call it this burial ground. Never one bone has been found at that place, okay? Go figure. In essence, they're a trio of burial chambers found above Scotland's River Nairn and amid enchanting woodland, and which are positioned in north to east and south to west directions. Now, the passages leading to the chambers were created in a fashion that deliberately aligned them to the setting of the midwinter sun. Now, clearly, then, the construction process was a matter of deep importance and significance to the creators. Just like the Kleinhenges, the Clava Cairns are comprised of stones, pebbles, and even boulders, which are heaped together in circular raised formations. Now, the little bit about geology that I do know, you don't just get little clumps of stones landing in circles naturally. You know, that doesn't tend to happen in nature, okay? So it goes on to say here, as for their purpose, to act as a sacred burial chamber for the elite figures of the tribe in question, a theory bolstered by the fact that when the tombs were excavated in the 1800s and the 1950s, the cremated remains of number of people were found within. Now, very interestingly, and I honestly, Jimmy, I don't buy that. I just don't. And that's my own opinion. I don't think they've found any evidence for burials there. Now, yeah, it doesn't. Very interestingly, the Clava Cairns are located east of Inverness and only a short drive from Loch Ness. Of equal note, the River Nairn, on which the cairns stand, flows into the Murray Firth, as does the River Ness, and the latter having been the site of a number of creature encounters, including the now legendary and famous 565 AD account of Saint Columba. Now, adding even more monster-based weirdness to the story, the River Nairn flows by the site of a historic April the 16th, 1746 confrontation. Its name, the Battle of Culloden. Me and Anne have gone there late at night, and that is one eerie, eerie place. You're talking about thousands of people in one of these old type battles with swords and things. That's a weird place. So Scottish lore tells us how, on the night before the violent battle began, a huge, monstrous, bird-like beast was seen hovering and flying above the battlefield. Known as the Scree, this creature had eyes that blazed red and large and membranous wings, like those hideous, devilish bats. Now that sounds to me more like a Mothman.
The Scree.
The Scree sounds like a Mothman, right?
That sounds scarier than Mothman. The
Doesn't it?
Scree.
Ken Webb would definitely be impressed with our name over here for the Mothman. We call it the Scree, or I call it the Scree now, right? The creature was seen as a decidedly ill omen, a precursor to the death and the tragedy that loomed on the horizon for the forces of Bonnie Prince Charlie and those of George II. It was a battle that brought to an end what was known as the Jacobite Rising. So, what we have there, within the waters of Loch Ness and at the Clava Cairns on the nearby River Nairn, are curious stone structures that are eerily similar. Loch Ness is home to one of the world's most legendary cryptids, and where Kev Baker grew up, and nearby River Nairn is linked to the sighting of a flying, fiery-eyed monster. And the Clava Cairns were created to house the cremated remains of tribal chieftains. All this brings us back to Linda Godfrey's comments in relation to Native American lore, namely that animal-shaped spirit guardians, summoned up via magical rite in the distant past, possibly are similar spirit guardians. They may still faithfully watch over the now sunken old stone circles in Loch Ness, ones that were constructed millennia ago by a tribe of people largely now forgotten and lost to the fog of time. How interesting is that? And Jimmy Jeans, how crazy is it that I live in a country and I was born in a specific location that is more steeped in woo than anywhere I can think of in Scotland?
Well, it's a mind blower, and you know, I'm just sitting here thinking about all the possibilities, especially earlier on when you mentioned about these tunnels, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, if these were tunnels at some point, you know, maybe they said, you know, open the floodgates, you know, the enemy is, you know, chasing us down the path, you know, and they closed it in, and that's when the water came up. But maybe before then, it was a pathway right to that direct spot you were talking about in Turkey. That these magical spaces where these dimensional portal type devices. I'll tell you something else too. I was watching the chat, and Jennifer from Veterans for Truth was in there riffing about portals a little while ago, and I can't scroll back to it unfortunately, but she was definitely making some really cool points about these portals, Kev. So I think, you know, the other thing is too, I don't know if you know it or not, but maybe you should get a hold of Richard Allen Miller, because he's got this whole thing that you rarely hear him talking about it, but he's got a whole presentation that he does about the giants in the Grand Canyon, and these finds that they've made there, you know, and it kind of supports some of the same kind of technology that we've seen in some of these other places is actually there in the Grand Canyon. It's interesting stuff.
Look at that, dude. Look at those tunnels. That's a tunnel, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Evidence of Stone Age tunnels have been found under hundreds of Neolithic settlements all over Europe. The fact that so many have survived after 12,000 years. Now, that does take us back into the ballpark of Göbekli Tepe. Right? They say, what, 11,000 years or something for that? That's ballpark area, okay? That's not a ball hair off it, right? So, yeah, just in case people thought I was kind of, like, stretching it, saying that they have these tunnels, there you go. Going underground, the massive European network of Stone Age tunnels that weave from Scotland to Turkey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's a 2011 story. I'll drop it in the chat room for people if they want to check it out. Absolutely. There you go. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, see, I mean, I've only heard tale. I've never really seen an actual representation of it physically. I've only heard about it. So that's interesting, man.
Well, here, I'll just read the first bit of it because we're
going wild now even more, because when you mentioned it earlier, I never really considered it. But when you mentioned it earlier, I started thinking about, well, what if there was no water in there? Maybe that was a pathway to the civilizations that were here before.
Says Stone Age man created a massive network of underground tunnels crisscrossing Europe from Scotland to Turkey. A new book on the ancient superhighways is claimed. German archaeologist Dr. Heinrich Kusch said evidence of the tunnels has been found under hundreds of Neolithic settlements all over the continent. Now, in his book, Secrets of the Underground Door to an Ancient World, he claims the fact that so many have survived 12,000 years shows that the original tunnel network must have been enormous. That's a heck of an undertaking right there, dude, right? A heck of an undertaking.
Yeah, and they didn't have any nuclear-powered drill machines either back then. Or maybe
these
they did.
people, they just had chicken bones, Jimmy. Just chicken bones, man.
Right.
They dug it out with chicken bones, you know?
Right, and they build stuff that it takes decades to build, and then they use it to bury somebody in.
Strange, huh?
It's crazy, man. You know, the thing is like you were talking about earlier with these disappearances in these different national parks, these potential for these special envelopes to exist, it's an envelope between here and there, and you can just slide through, and just in this one spot is where the veil is ruffled, and you can sneak through and get into the other dimension. And maybe that's how some of these things pop in here. They just show up. They just bump against the envelope and they come in, and there's no way to go back once you're in.
Maybe these circles have some way of almost focusing or channeling the ether, the stuff around us, maybe a focal point. Like you say, maybe it just makes it that bit more porous, you know?
Or it's some sort of a vibrational that happens, and the magnetics of the vibrational causes that fluctuation or that ripple.
Now, James Swagger, who I really wish I knew how James was, even just to know James is alive would be a nice thing, because nobody's heard from James for years. And me and Swagger, remember we used to have the shows Swagger Time and that, and he went to like the Hypogeum and things over in Malta, and he done Newgrange and things like that, and he always used to say to me on and off air, Kev, there's something very acoustical to these places, something very, very to do with sound waves, stuff like that. I don't know, I think he was onto something. I really do think he was onto something. ZX in the chat room. Last ice age, mankind went underground, made these places, and when the freeze was over, they came back to the surface and abandoned the underground. That is feasible for me. It's the same as when they filled in Göbekli Tepe. Where did these people go? Well, now we know. Now we might know, because they might literally have gone into the tunnels that exist under Turkey, that exist under most of Europe that we're coming to find. I totally agree with you. Yeah, totally onto that one, ZX. I like that.
And if you think about it, realistically, how long would it take a people to forget their history? So in other words, you all of a sudden
I say only 100 years. You only need 3 generations out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if everything blinked out right now, I mean, you'd be stuck with knowing what you know now, and that's it, because you wouldn't really be able to gain any more knowledge from the way that you used to.
There always seems to be a few survivors, which is why we get fragments of stories from the old cycle. But then those survivors, they're maybe only 1 generation away from not being here anymore. So then it turns into an oral tradition where it gets passed down, and like Chinese whispers over the years, things get skewed, not deliberately maybe, you know, but just lost in translation. You know, different time, different way, and one word here, one word there can lead to a really big change in like the meaning of something over time. So, and if that's the case, if you just do get these little remnants, you know, a few hundred people, a few thousand people, whatever, you know, they're not going to be here for that much longer. We've all got a life expectancy. So once that memory, once those people who retain that memory of what went before are gone and replaced by the next generations that have only lived past that time, that's how I say, you know, you can easily hide things, big time.
That's
Easily.
why, and that's why these secret societies throughout time have had this oral tradition where everything is passed from lip to ear to somebody who has been initiated into the club and who has been found to be worthy for to receive the information, because there always has to be somebody to pass that information down the event that something happens. So a lot of this discussion comes out of I know you're going to laugh, but when you look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he says in there that people took his teachings and they became priests of the temple, and they were dispatched out throughout the world to rebuild what was lost after Atlantis was gone. So, I mean, you know, the thing is, I don't think it, like you're saying, it's not going to take too long. And I mean, the thing is once you're in a situation where you're like that, now you're underground, you have to start, you know, live like that, then everything else at that point doesn't even really matter, because the only thing that matters now is what you learn from this point forward about, you know, living underground. But I mean, I think it's totally possible for there to be not just tunnels to travel from here to there, but I think there's full on remnants of civilizations like we were talking about earlier. There's a whole other civilization that kept evolving, that never actually did come back up.
Yeah, you've said that for a long time. I have to kind of let the audience know that this isn't something new that you're saying. You've said to me many times before the possibility of that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I find that to be a more plausible possibility as far as UFOs and flights of craft that we don't understand that deal with the magnetics of the Earth. It makes more sense to me. These crafts originate from here, or it doesn't make sense to me that somebody would be light years away and they develop some flying saucer that they could fly across the universe and come land on Earth. It doesn't seem plausible. It seems more plausible that somebody that an understanding of how the Earth actually works, the magnetics in the fields, and they have technology surrounding how that works, and we're just out of the loop because we weren't part of those secret societies. Nobody passed us down that secret information, so we're just out here. You're out here, like I said earlier, you're like a hunter-gatherer. You're out here on this electronic frontier trying to...
How dare you?
A hunter-gatherer. Thank you, Greta, sticking up for me. About time you stuck up for me, Greta.
Well, you know, I mean, look at the internet as a jungle, man. It's a jungle out there because
it's an internet. It's a net. You get caught up with all kinds of things in that net. It's a big net, trawling the world for minds and ideas, and we're all stuck in it, folks. To certain degrees, some of us see the net more than others, but make no mistake, we're stuck in this virtual tramp's pocket. Whatever this time period is, I don't know. What they'll write about this time period hundreds of years from now, I imagine thousands from years from now, the podcasters in the next cycle will most definitely be looking back to this time and trying to figure out what the heck was going on around then. What were they doing? You know? But then will there be any remnants of us? Our buildings barely last a lifetime. I imagine the pyramids might still be here a few thousand years from now. They might be a little smaller. Land may rise, maybe some water around them, I don't know. But they'll last. And what about all these metal and glass buildings that we put together? I don't see them lasting too long, Jimmy, yeah?
No. They don't build stuff like they used to. These tunnels have lasted 12,000 years, right? So
hang on, we have got a reptilian in the chat room.
Nice. Somebody said that I have officially paddled out to Speculation Island in the chat earlier, just a minute ago.
Hey, dude, I'm telling you, man. The Kev Baker show resides on Speculation Island. It is. It's the land of conjecture. We can see that on the horizon, Jimmy. And behind me is the unknown world of untapped woo. It's a strange place that the Kev Baker show comes to you from. And if you do like this show, please consider becoming a member. Or you could really, really please me and tickle the PayPal, so close to this Google payday. But Jimmy, we're almost out of time, man. Well, I'm almost out of time. You've got a show later on, right? Tell people where they can catch you, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to be on my channel, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy G, right here on YouTube at 11 Pacific. And I'll be on there for 2 hours. And tonight it is a dirt nap party. And we're... I can't say...
I'm laughing because Littlefoot now claims to be officially reptilian. And that's a distinction that needs to be made. You get all sorts of characters claiming to be reptilian, but myself and Jimmy have just ordained you an official reptilian.
Yeah, I've seen
Go forward, my child.
I've seen some people saying that I'm wearing sunglasses so people can't tell that when I look sideways, you can't see my reptilian eyes.
Are you shape-shifting?
No, I'm not. I'm not shape-shifting, but...
Now, hang on now. Littlefoot says it's true. My vivarium, I'm not sure what a vivarium is, but it's a minimum temperature and everything. Jimmy, what the hell's a vivarium? Because I've got some really wrong things going through my head.
I think it's an environment where you can raise items as though they're in their natural jungle. So you can create a jungle inside of a fish tank. Is a vivarium, I'm pretty sure.
And listen, Chris is the other half of Littlefoot. Because I remember that when Littlefoot phoned into the show, and he's saying, babe, you're a legit reptile now. I tell you, and she told him within the first week of going out with him that she might be reptilian. I don't know if that would be a deal breaker or a deal maker for me, I must admit. I don't know. How would you take it, Jimmy? You're going out, a couple of dates. It's going well. You get that wee knot in your stomach when you hear the phone ringing, or you're going to meet them and you think, end of week one, we'll go for a bite to eat, wine and diner at McDonald's or something, really treat her nice. And over those French fries, well, there's maybe something I should tell you. Oh, what's that, and got a husband? I don't know. No, I'm actually part reptilian. How do you answer to that, Jimmy? How does that go with the whole, whoa, the chemistry's happening here?
Well, I don't know. I think that would be the time that you might want to turn into a gecko. You know what I mean? Or a chameleon.
Well,
blend.
Chris has got a thing for scaly skin. So I take it was a deal maker then. That was it. Dang, dude. You were like that. Love at first sight. With those kind of flickering eyes, shape-shifting in and out and that. I don't know, man. I don't know. Reptilians amongst us, Jimmy.
Your copper eye flickering in the moonlight.
Mammoth says I can do better than that. Because there's so much of a delay, I don't even know what half joke that might be referring to. A bummer. It really is. No, Edward, I've got no desire to see your lizard, my friend. No desire whatsoever. Edward, as valued a member of my channel you are, there's some things you keep to yourself, and sharing your lizard with me is something I definitely don't want to get up to. But Jimmy, have you had a blast? Did you enjoy our little forte into the world of streaming today?
I did. It was a good time, and I like a no news is good news Friday. I mean, it's always no news is good news as far as I'm concerned. So I had a great time. Anytime, happy to come back. Love the listeners. And like I said earlier, there's never been a better time to become a member of the Kev Baker Show channel right here on YouTube. And I'm here to say,
I don't want to see your member. I just want to be. I want you to be a member. That's the important distinction we're on about here. Since people are threatening me with lizards and reptilians and things like that, let's make it perfectly clear. But if this hasn't been enough for you today, there's a nasty rumour that I might be back for Freaky Friday in just over an hour from now. I say might be because it's Scott Lopez's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Scotty.
Joe Joseph's like Lord Lucan. I, where he is, I honestly don't know. Maybe he'll check in, maybe he won't. I don't know. I don't know if I can do a 3-hour Freaky myself. I tried it one week, folks. It just isn't the same. It's not the same buzz. But I'm 90% sure we'll be here for Freaky very, very soon. Apart from that, look forward to the weekends. I'll be on with the guys. Our everything you need to know about absolutely nothing stream, which can go here, there, and everywhere. And of course, on a Sunday, we get one of our OGs of the alternative media back again. And we are going to MAMGA. Forget MAGA. MAMGA. We're going to make alternative media great again. Yeah, indeed. I like that. I came up with that today. I thought that was pretty cool.
Good.
You like that one, dude? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I seen Popeye had posted on Twitter, you know, that he was very proud to be back in the trenches, standing beside myself and Scotty and the rest of the guys, and, you know, bring it on. And I'm thinking, yeah,
You know what?
MAMGA.
It was funny. It was funny today because I was listening to some music, getting ready to do my thing tonight, and one of the songs that I was listening to is the old Popeye intro song, which is "Ladies and Gentlemen." That song that he used to use, and I was immediately brought back when I heard that because I haven't heard that song since he was on the air, man. So I'm stoked. He's gonna be here Sunday, man. I'll definitely be tuning in. I'll be in the chat, maybe.
Well, Onslow.
Yeah, I got work. I'm not sure.
Onslow loves me and you together, and yeah, we took a bit of a break, you know, a bit of a hiatus, but yeah, myself and Jimmy, we bounce off each other rather well. Jimmy can annoy the hell out of me at times, and vice versa, but that's what happens in friendships. So what you see is what you get. There's nothing scripted. Just two dudes. We literally got together 10 minutes before this stream. The longest part was actually making the thumbnail because Photoshop is absolutely goosed. Adobe, get your Photoshop fixed out. You know, I'm actually one of the few people that haven't pirated it, and I do pay a monthly subscription. So the least you could do for a paying member, there's that member word again. Members are coming up far too often in this stream, Jimmy. It's quite disconcerting, I must admit. But get your bloody Photoshop sorted out, all right, Adobe? Or you'll have me on your case. And I'm sure that's nothing for them to worry about. But hey, like I say, Jimmy, I am one of the handful of people that still pay for Photoshop. I think most people have taken it off of one of the torrent sites, right?
Yeah, probably.
Exactly.
So
Zebra to you. Zebra to you. Hey, y'all. Now, Zebra, you're going to have to click back in the stream because we're almost getting ready to go away here. But it's brilliant to see you. It's brilliant to see all of the members. Brilliant to see all of the non-members. Can I give a special thank you? I usually don't single people out, but I have to give a special thank you today to Sidvich and Mr. D-Ball as well. D-Ball Money, he dropped a super chat in. Very much appreciated. And like I say, if you do want to support the stream, but you don't have to, we've got memberships. But my own personal favourite, days out from being paid by YouTube. Not that I said that, not allowed to tell you that. PayPal is definitely an option. Links in the description. Jimmy, any last thoughts, my good friend?
Well, all I can say is you couldn't do better by yourself as to become a member of the Kev Baker Show channel right here. And it really, you know, it helps out because Kev's here, you know, he works at this. I'm just going to say this, bro. I mean, I know you know I'm going to say it, but, you know, he works super hard in here, man. You know, he comes in here no matter what. And if something's breaking, you can guarantee. All right, Natalie.
Now, Natalie, I must tell you, if you want to cancel that, I absolutely understand, because I'm going to be totally honest with you right here, right now. I do very, very little on Patreon. I set it up over a year ago when we got caught up in a demonetization wave, before it became cool to talk about it, when Jonesy and all that got hit. Yeah, I was one of the early ones. And it was a way for people to kind of take up the slack after, because it was my main source. It's basically my job because I'm at home now. But if you would like to get more bang for your buck, probably the YouTube membership is the way to go. And you can choose from £2 a month to £8 a month, whatever you can afford. But that way, at least, I know I'm giving you value for money. And I hand on heart appreciate everyone that's stood by me on Patreon. Because, you know, there's never anyone demanding that I do stuff there. I think most people that are on there, and there's only 20 people or so, but I thank them so much. Because it's just another way to take up the slack, because you know me, I'm not the most algorithm friendly guy most days. So that means most days, if you class this as work, I'm doing it for charity. And again, it's not about the money, but at the same time, it definitely does help. So with that out of the way, no more talking about that. Nobody wants to hear about that stuff from their YouTube channels. But
well, the thing is, like, nobody wants to hear about it, but that's okay, because if you don't see, the thing is, like I always say, man, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So the thing about it is we're giving people an opportunity. We're letting them know that you're just a couple of members away from reaching another milestone, and so hopefully we can get there. And you know, that's what it's all about, man. Spreading the word. So boom. Who cares? It's all good.
Exactly. Jimmy, I've had fun. Have you?
Yeah, I had a great time, man. Can't wait to come back. Just let me know, and I'm here.
We'll be back soon. Maybe tomorrow, some point. Jimmy's back working on Sunday. We'll see. I can't promise, but I should be back an hour from now. So Zebra, you weren't late. Perhaps you're only 1 hour early, because there may be another stream coming up real soon, and they call it Freaky Friday. Until then, keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo.